Have you ever wondered what secrets lie hidden in ancient texts that the church doesn't want you to know? What if I told you that a sacred book banned for centuries holds shocking revelations about Africa's divine role in human history? The Book of Enoch, preserved in Ethiopia for millennia, contains 6 forbidden secrets that will transform how you understand the Bible and humanity's origins. Today, we're going to explore these explosive revelations that connect Africa to angels, giants, and even the Messiah himself. This isn't just another Bible study. This is the unveiling of suppressed knowledge that challenges everything you've been taught about Scripture and history. The Book of Enoch was once revered by early Christians, but was mysteriously removed from the Bible around the 4th century. Why would church authorities ban a text that was quoted by Jude in the New Testament itself? What were they afraid you might discover? This ancient manuscript tells the story of Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, who walked with God and was no more, for God took him, as Genesis 5, verse 24 describes. While the Bible gives us just this tantalizing glimpse, the Book of Enoch reveals the extraordinary cosmic journeys and divine revelations he experienced. What's most remarkable is that this text survived primarily in Ethiopia, preserved in the ancient Ge'ez language by African Christians who recognized its sacred importance. While Western churches suppressed this knowledge, Ethiopia, one of the world's oldest Christian nations, safeguarded these truths for all humanity. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has maintained an unbroken Christian tradition since the 4th century, long before many European nations heard the gospel. And they've treasured the Book of Enoch as canonical scripture, understanding its profound significance for all believers. Why was Africa chosen as the guardian of these secrets? The first shocking secret from Enoch reveals something the mainstream church has hidden for centuries. Africa was the landing place of the Watchers, those mysterious angelic beings who descended to earth. In Enoch 6, we read, "And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them. These watchers, 200 in number according to the text, made a pact on Mount Hermon." But what if the true location wasn't in the Middle East at all? Archaeological evidence and ancient African traditions point to the great mountains of Africa, Kilimanjaro, the Ethiopian highlands, or the Atlas Mountains as the actual site of this world-changing event. Consider the megalithic structures across Africa that have puzzled archaeologists for generations. From the stone circles of Senegal to the mysterious monuments of Ethiopia, these ancient sites bear witness to advanced knowledge that seems to have appeared suddenly in human history. And the Book of Enoch explains why divine beings brought celestial wisdom directly to Africa. This connection isn't merely speculation. Throughout Africa, indigenous traditions speak of sky beings who descended to teach humanity. The Dogon tribe's inexplicable knowledge of the Sirius star system, the Egyptian texts describing the Netjeru, or divine beings, and countless other traditions echo what Enoch recorded thousands of years ago. Bereshit bara Elohim, in the beginning God created, but the story we haven't been told is how Africa became the stage for divine intervention. The second forbidden secret concerns the Nephilim, those legendary giants born from the union of watchers and human women. Genesis 6 verses 3-4 briefly mentions them. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans, and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. Enoch provides far more detail, describing these beings as enormous in stature and insatiable in appetite. They consumed everything until they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. This corruption of creation led to divine judgment. What's remarkable is how African oral traditions preserve memories of these giants. From the Maasai tales of the Ogemba to the Zulu legends of ancient giants who once ruled the land, these stories persist across the continent. Could these be cultural memories of the Nephilim described in Enoch? Archaeological discoveries lend credence to this possibility. Oversized ancient tools found in various African locations, anomalous skeletal remains, and rock art depicting extraordinarily tall beings all suggest that Africa may indeed have been home to these legendary giants. The Great Flood that eventually destroyed the Nephilim has particular significance for Africa. According to biblical genealogy, Noah's son Ham became the father of African nations. Did some of Ham's descendants retain knowledge of the pre-flood world, including memories of the Nephilim? Is this why African traditions contain such vivid accounts of these beings? Adonai, the Lord will provide, and he provided Africa with the wisdom to remember what others forgot. Can you handle what comes next? The third secret will shake the foundations of biblical geography as you know it. The Book of Enoch describes incredible journeys where the patriarch was taken by angels to witness the wonders of creation. And I proceeded to where things were chaotic, he writes in chapter 21, describing landscapes of fire and cosmic wonder. But what if these visions weren't abstract spiritual realms, but actual African locations transformed by divine perspective? The majestic waterfalls, vast deserts, lush forests, and towering mountains of Africa match Enoch's descriptions with striking accuracy when he speaks of 7 magnificent mountains, all differing each from the other. Could he be describing the Ethiopian highlands, where the manuscript itself was preserved, when he mentions great rivers flowing from paradise? Is he seeing the life-giving Nile that has sustained civilizations for millennia? Ethiopia is repeatedly mentioned in biblical prophecy. Psalm 68, verses 31 declares, Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. In Acts 8, verses 32-39, we read about the Ethiopian eunuch, a court official of the Candace, or queen, who was reading Isaiah's prophecies. This wasn't coincidental. It reflects Africa's destined role in God's plan, a role first glimpsed in Enoch's visions. The astronomical knowledge in the Book of Enoch is particularly fascinating. He describes the movements of the sun, moon, and stars with remarkable precision for an ancient text. African civilizations, like the Dogon and ancient Egyptians, possessed similarly advanced astronomical knowledge. Did Enoch receive his cosmic understanding from African sages who had preserved wisdom from the Watchers? Or did his visions inspire Africa's stellar traditions? Enoch writes of the elect and the holy children who dwell in the high heaven. These chosen ones appear throughout his visions as those who will ultimately inherit God's kingdom. Could this be a prophecy of Africa's spiritual awakening? Baruch Hashem, blessed be the name, for his plans for Africa were written in the stars from the beginning. The fourth forbidden secret reveals how Enoch's teachings parallel ancient African wisdom traditions. While Western theology often portrays Enoch as receiving knowledge directly from God or angels, what if he also learned from human sages who had preserved antediluvian wisdom? Africa has been home to some of humanity's oldest centers of learning. From the ancient libraries of Timbuktu to the mystery schools of Egypt, African civilizations preserved knowledge when much of the world remained in darkness. The Book of Enoch contains sophisticated concepts about astronomy, meteorology, and cosmology that mirror African scientific traditions. Consider the Dogon tribe's knowledge of Sirius B, a companion star to Sirius that's invisible to the naked eye. Modern astronomers only discovered it in 1862 with telescopes. Yet the Dogon had detailed knowledge of its 50-year orbit. Similarly, Enoch described celestial mechanics with remarkable accuracy for an ancient text could both draw from the same ancient source of wisdom. Enoch 33, verses 3-4 states, "I saw the gates of heaven open, and I saw how the stars of heaven come forth, and I counted the gates out of which they proceed." This parallels African star lore, which often features detailed understanding of celestial cycles and their relationship to earthly events. The oral traditions of Africa have preserved ancient knowledge for countless generations. While Western cultures relied on written texts that could be destroyed or corrupted, African griots and knowledge keepers memorized vast libraries of wisdom, passing them intact through the millennia. Perhaps this is why the Book of Enoch survived in Ethiopia when it was lost elsewhere. Africa's oral tradition remembered its truths even when written copies were destroyed. Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, but also hear, O Africa, for your wisdom has preserved truths that the rest of the world forgot. The fifth secret from the Book of Enoch concerns Africa's prophesied role in the end times. While many focus on the Middle East in apocalyptic scenarios, Enoch's visions suggest Africa will be central to God's final plan for humanity. Enoch describes a time when the elect shall possess light, joy, and peace, and they shall inherit the earth. This parallels biblical prophecies about Ethiopia and Egypt in the last days. Isaiah 19, verses 23-25 declares, "In that day there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. In that day Israel will be the third, along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth. The Lord Almighty will bless them, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel my inheritance." This remarkable prophecy places African nations on equal footing with Israel in God's blessing. Zephaniah 3 verse 10 adds, "From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my worshippers. My scattered people will bring me offerings." These references aren't coincidental. They reflect Africa's destined role in the culmination of divine history. The Book of Enoch provides additional details about this future time. In chapter 90, Enoch sees a vision of a white bull representing the Messiah, and how all the beasts feared him and made petition to him all the time. This universal reverence mirrors the explosive growth of Christianity in Africa today, where the faith is spreading faster than anywhere else on earth. Africa is currently experiencing the most significant Christian revival in history, and by 2060, 4 in 10 Christians worldwide will live in sub-Saharan Africa. This demographic shift represents a return to Christianity's early roots. Remember that Africa gave us Augustine, Tertullian, and Athanasius, giants of Christian theology. Could this African revival be the fulfillment of Enoch's prophecies? Is the continent that preserved his book now fulfilling its predicted role? Kumi Ori, shine, for your light has come, and Africa's light may be leading the way to humanity's spiritual renewal. Are you ready for the most controversial revelation? The sixth secret will challenge everything you thought you knew about the Messiah. The most explosive secret from the Book of Enoch concerns a mysterious figure, the Son of Man, or the Elect One. While Christians typically identify this figure with Jesus, Enoch's descriptions contain fascinating connections to African spiritual traditions that have been deliberately obscured. In Enoch 46, verses 1-3, we read, "There I beheld the Ancient of Days, whose head was like white wool, and with him another whose countenance resembled that of a man. His countenance was full of grace like that of one of the holy angels. Then I inquired of one of the angels who went with me, and who showed me every secret thing concerning this Son of Man, who he was, whence he was, and why he accompanied the Ancient of Days." This description predates Christianity by centuries, yet contains remarkable parallels to both Jesus and African concepts of the divine mediator. Many African spiritual traditions feature a divine figure who bridges heaven and earth, serving as intermediary between God and humanity, precisely the role Enoch attributes to the Son of Man. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has long maintained that their nation has a special connection to the Ark of the Covenant and the Solomonic dynasty. They claim direct descent from King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, whose son Menelik supposedly brought the Ark to Ethiopia. This tradition establishes a direct lineage connecting Africa to the Davidic line from which the Messiah would come. Consider also the African figures in Jesus' own story. Simon of Cyrene in North Africa carried Jesus' cross. The Ethiopian eunuch was among the first Gentile converts. Early church traditions hold the Holy Family found refuge in Egypt during Herod's persecution. Africa is woven throughout the Messianic narrative. What if Enoch's vision of the Son of Man wasn't just predicting Jesus as a Middle Eastern Jewish man, but foreseeing how the Messianic role would embrace all peoples, with Africa playing a crucial part? Haneni, here I am. Perhaps Africa has been saying this to the divine call throughout history, ready to fulfill its messianic purpose. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Book of Enoch concerns the technologies the Watchers brought to humanity. Enoch 8, verses 1-3 states, "And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them. Samyaza taught enchantments and root cuttings, Armoros the resolving of enchantments. Barakol taught astrology, Kokobol the constellations." This ancient text describes what appears to be advanced technological knowledge being given to early humans. The parallels to modern scientific discoveries are striking. When Enoch mentions the Watchers teaching metallurgy, astronomy, medicine, and cosmetics, he's describing a sudden leap in human technological capability, exactly what the archaeological record shows happened in ancient Africa. Recent genetic studies have identified mysterious DNA patterns that some researchers suggest could indicate ancient genetic manipulation or introduction of non-human DNA, while mainstream science attributes this to natural evolution or unknown ancient human species. Could Enoch's account of Watcher, human interbreeding provide an alternative explanation. The Great Pyramid of Giza remains a technological marvel that modern engineers struggle to fully explain, built with mathematical precision that incorporates pi and phi, aligned perfectly to true north, and constructed with techniques we still don't fully understand. It stands as evidence of an advance in ancient Africa. Did this knowledge come from the watchers described in Enoch? Even more compelling are the similarities between Enoch's descriptions and modern phenomena. When he describes stars that fell from heaven, could he be describing what we now call UFOs? When he mentions the watchers teaching humans hidden knowledge, does this explain the mysterious leaps in technological understanding throughout history? Magadlu Mawasi Adonai, how great are your works, O Lord! Perhaps the technological wonders we attribute to modern science were first glimpsed in ancient Africa through the knowledge Enoch described. What other secrets might be hiding in plain sight? Why has the Book of Enoch and its African connections been suppressed for so long? The answer reveals a deliberate attempt to control the narrative about humanity's origins and spiritual heritage. When the biblical canon was formalized in the 4th century under Roman Emperor Constantine, political considerations were as important as theological ones. The Roman Empire needed a unified religion to maintain control over its vast territories. Texts like Enoch, which emphasized direct divine revelation outside hierarchical structures and highlighted Africa's spiritual importance, threatened this control. Throughout history, those in power have rewritten narratives to maintain their authority. By removing Enoch from the canon and diminishing Africa's biblical role, European religious authorities could justify colonialism and slavery, bringing civilization to regions that ironically had preserved biblical knowledge they themselves had lost. Consider how the Queen of Sheba's story has been treated. In 1 Kings 10, she comes from Africa or Arabia to test Solomon with hard questions and acknowledges his God. Ethiopian tradition identifies her as Queen Makeda, who bore Solomon's son, establishing the Solomonic dynasty that ruled until Haile Selassie in the 20th century. Yet Western biblical interpretation often reduces her to a minor character. Similarly, Moses' Ethiopian wife, mentioned in Numbers 12, is rarely discussed in Western churches. When Miriam and Aaron criticized Moses for marrying her, God struck Miriam with leprosy. A divine rebuke of prejudice, yet this powerful lesson about God's view of ethnic division has been consistently overlooked. Even Jesus' African connections are minimized. Matthew 2, verses 13-15 tells us Jesus' family fled to Egypt, fulfilling the prophecy, "Out of Egypt I called my son." The early years of the Messiah were spent in Africa, yet artistic depictions rarely acknowledge this reality. Lo Torah, do not fear. The truth cannot remain hidden forever. And the knowledge preserved in Africa is finally emerging to restore our understanding of humanity's shared spiritual heritage. What comes next will connect these ancient mysteries to today's headlines in ways you never imagined possible. The final revelation brings Enoch's prophecies into our present moment, revealing how Africa's spiritual awakening is fulfilling ancient predictions and transforming global Christianity. Africa is now the epicenter of Christian growth worldwide. While churches decline in Europe and North America, they're exploding across Africa. Nigeria alone has more practicing Christians than all of Western Europe combined. By 2060, 6 of the countries with the world's largest Christian populations will be in Africa. This isn't just the demographic shift, it's a theological one. African Christianity often emphasizes direct spiritual experience, supernatural encounters, and cosmic warfare between good and evil, themes that dominate the Book of Enoch. But were marginalized in Western theology. As African theological perspectives gain influence, they're reintroducing elements that were lost when Enoch was removed from the canon. Recent archaeological discoveries support Enoch's narratives. In 2013, researchers in Ethiopia discovered a 1700-year-old copy of the Book of Enoch written in Ge'ez, confirming its long presence in African Christianity. DNA studies of Ethiopian Jews showed genetic markers dating back to ancient Israel, supporting traditional claims of connections to Solomon. The political landscape is also reflecting patterns described in Enoch. His apocalyptic visions describe a time when the kings and the mighty and the exalted will be humbled while the righteous are elevated. Across Africa, movements for justice and equality are challenging corrupt power structures in ways that echo in prophecies of divine justice. Even in popular culture, we see Enoch's influence emerging. Films like Black Panther draw on African spiritual traditions that parallel Enoch's descriptions of advanced knowledge preserved in hidden kingdoms. And music artists increasingly incorporate elements of African spirituality that resonate with Enochian themes. Kohalam Kulo, the whole world is a very narrow bridge, as humanity faces unprecedented challenges. The ancient wisdom preserved in Africa may provide the spiritual bridge we need to navigate these uncertain times. Tell us what you think. Are these connections between Enoch and Africa coincidental, or do they reveal a suppressed truth about our spiritual heritage? We stand at a crossroads of understanding. The secrets of Enoch and Africa's divine role challenge us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about biblical history and humanity's spiritual journey. Will we cling to familiar narratives that divide humanity into separate spiritual lineages? Or will we embrace the more complex but unified story that Enoch presents? One where all peoples share a common divine heritage, with Africa playing a central role. The evidence is compelling. The Book of Enoch, preserved primarily in Africa, contains detailed knowledge of astronomy, meteorology, and spiritual realms that parallels both ancient African wisdom traditions and modern scientific discoveries. Its prophecies about the end times align with Africa's current spiritual awakening, and its descriptions of the Watchers and Nephilim find echoes in African oral traditions and archaeological mysteries. Jesus himself may have referenced Enoch in Matthew 22, verses 29-30. He says, "At the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like the angels in heaven." This parallels Enoch's descriptions of the angelic state. The Epistle of Jude directly quotes Enoch 1, verse 9, calling Enoch the seventh from Adam and treating his prophecies as authoritative. The time has come to restore what was lost. Not just an ancient text, but an understanding of our shared spiritual heritage that transcends artificial divisions. As Enoch prophesied, a time would come when hidden knowledge would be revealed and all peoples would recognize their common origin and destiny. Tikkun Olam. Repair the world by reclaiming the wisdom preserved in Africa and recorded by Enoch. We take a step toward healing the divisions that have fragmented humanity for too long. The forbidden secrets are forbidden no more. Share this revelation with others who seek deeper understanding. And subscribe to join us on your discovery as we continue to explore the hidden connections between ancient texts and our modern world. The truth is emerging, and it's more wonderful and unifying than we ever imagined. What will you do with these revelations? The choice is yours.